My name is Justin Stottle. I am the admissions counselor advisor for the graduate landscape architecture program. So if you've started your application or if I've reached out to you before, you've probably heard of me or heard from me. And once you start your application, I usually reach out within a week or two to introduce myself and to talk with you about the application. So when you do get that message, please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to schedule a conversation or a phone call or an email if you have any questions. But yeah, let's get this started. And then I think we have a few faculty who will be joining us a little bit later. Um, yeah, so I'll hand it over to Esther Margulies.
Hi, everybody. I'm Esther Margulies. I'm the director of the Master of Landscape Architecture and Urbanism program, and I want to thank you all for coming this evening. And I've got a little presentation queued up here. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, Justin. And I see that our first guest in the room tonight from the faculty side is Jessica Henson, one of our fantastic part-time instructors. But I suppose before, let me share my screen successfully. Before I officially ask Jessica to pipe up and introduce herself, I should say maybe just a couple things about me. I am a faculty member. I teach in the program right now. I've got a couple of students here that I also want to introduce you to. Job and Morgan, they're in my class, the construction document and assemblies course. Last year, I taught the third year design seminar research and studio sequence. And I am a licensed landscape architect practicing here in the city of Los Angeles and have been involved for going on 4.5, 5 years with the USC Public Exchange Urban Trees Initiative, which is now turning into Shade LA, really focused on extreme heat in Los Angeles and the Southwest. So that's a little bit about me. And now I would like to invite Jessica Henson to introduce herself and say a few words about herself and her practice.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here. As Esther said, my name is Jessica Henson. I teach on the faculty in the second year program in the urban design studio, which if you come, you will get to take and we'll be able to have a lot of fun together, learning about cities and how all of the different components of our urban realm and the landscape really stitch together the fabric of our lives. Really excited to be able to host all of you here. I am a practitioner and I am a owner and principal at Olin. We are a landscape architecture firm. We, lead projects nationwide, internationally. I'm the partner in charge of our studio in Los Angeles. We have offices in LA and Philly. And so it's really great. We have a strong commitment in our office to academics and how we really think about the next generation of leaders. And I always say, like, I teach so that people can do an even better job of what we're doing in the future. So I'm really excited that all of you that are here have found landscape architecture. I did my undergraduate degree in architecture and then went on to do landscape architecture as a grad student, which may be some of you that are considering this. And I think that was one of the best decisions that I ever made in my life. I think that our field and the impact that we can have on the public realm really can impact for the better the environments that we are all living in and really truly enhance lives. So I'll be able to stick around for a little bit as Esther presents and answer questions and really hope to get to see some of you in the fall. Thanks, Esther.
Thanks for coming, Jessica. And hey, before you sign off, I wonder if maybe you could just provide a couple examples of projects, maybe the best known project in the Los Angeles region. We tend to have people from LA, but then nationally and internationally. I know I was just watching one of those spy thrillers on Netflix and I saw your London Embassy project there, which was very impressive. But two questions for you. What is a great local project in Los Angeles that people can visit and get to know more about what a really robust and interesting practice looks like? And what's the most interesting project you've ever worked on?
Oh my goodness, I love it. Well, Olin has done projects over the last 50 years, projects like the Getty in Los Angeles, which is probably our most famous here. We still continue to do projects at the Getty today, even though it was built in the 90s and we were the original landscape architect. So if you ever in LA or if you live here, definitely spend some time at the Getty. It's free to go. One of the most incredible museums in the world. Also in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles River Master Plan for all 51 miles of the LA River, I led as part of our office here and a larger team of consultants, as well as like the Sepulveda Basin Vision Plan. So we really are leading these large scale green infrastructure, dealing with issues of environmental justice and where they come together with social issues and infrastructure. So, everything from ecology to housing to all these different things. As Esther mentioned, I was fortunate to be the project manager on the new US Embassy in London. So if you've seen The Diplomat on Netflix with what Carrie Russell, that building is one of ours. So whenever they're in the gardens, you can thank a landscape architect. Really great facility. And then, like other projects that our office has done, we did the renovation of the National Mall around the Washington Monument about 15 years ago. And if you've ever been to like Columbus Circle in New York or Pier 26 in New York, or here locally, Sportsman's Lodge. So, definitely some great places where landscape architects are changing the world. I do have a really soft spot in my heart for projects along the Los Angeles River. I grew up along the Mississippi River in rural Illinois, which is still super close to my heart. I love it, and loved rivers all of my life. And the LA River is a little bit unique. Throughout history, it's really been degraded and disregarded, and a lot of people haven't really saw it as a river, saw it as the backyard or just a drainage channel. But over the last decade or so, I've been working on projects along the river and thinking about how we continue the revitalization that folks in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s were dreaming about. And how do we bring some of those projects to reality in a world of really complex jurisdictional issues, climate change, and environmental degradation we see today, to really think about what the future of living in LA is like. So, I would say that those projects, whether it's the overall master plan or the Sepulveda Basin Vision Plan, or some of the other things we have in the works that you'll hear more about in the years to come if you come study with us in LA. But those are really great. And they align with a lot of the research that I like to do along river systems. And if you check out like my book, Freshwater, you'll get to know what a nerd I am for rivers.
Thanks a lot, Jessica. Hey, Justin, I see that Doug Kent is here. Doug Kent is also one of our part-time faculty members and an expert on fire resilience and firescaping. Doug, do you mind piping in for a second, introduce yourself and what you're
Yes. Can
teaching?
everybody hear me and see me okay? Good, good, good. I am not dressed professionally. I apologize. I just came down from, I volunteer for Orange Homegrown. They're a local farm. They run the farmers market and they run a seed lending library and they run a farm to fork culinary program for high school students in our city. And we're having our annual Treats in the Streets event. So I was downtown representing our good works. So excuse my look here. So my name is Doug Kent, and it's just wonderful to meet all of you. I hope I get to work with you. I'm an urban ecologist, and there's a lot of different ecologists. There's soil ecologists, there's native ecologists. Being an urban ecologist, for me at least, is how do we care for millions of people without destroying the planet? That has beguiled us. We really don't have that down. Our needs are overrunning what remains of the wild places of our planet. So, really, what role do urban landscapes play in protecting humans, in providing nourishment, providing shelter, providing health, care, textiles? Clean air, clean water, all these things. And I think urban areas can really do a better job of lifting everything up. Not only the bugs and the bees and the butterflies and the birds, but humans too. I think we can do a lot better work. And I've been at this for a while. I've been gardening since I was 14 years old, so more than 43 years of landscape experience. And some of the things I've done, I teach at three universities. USC is by far my favorite. We get exceptional students and exceptional work. And the diversity of the professors here is so great that it cultivates such a unique thought in the students. We're not all in lockstep, and that tiny bit of conflict actually creates this real sense of creativity within the students, and it really elevates their professions. The students I've worked with have gone on to do great things, absolutely great things. But so I've worked in hundreds of landscapes as a landscape contractor, landscape designer, and I've done a ton of writing. I've written for LA Times, Specific Horticulture, Press Democrat, all kinds of just love writing, anything to avoid my family. I'm just going to stick myself in a corner uh, and just go at it. But let me just cover just some of the books because actually this involves a lot of what we're going to be running through if you take one of my classes. The very first book was on native plants and the Native American uses for these plants, the indigenous practices. And this indigenous practices is a thread that I'll tie through all my work. I'm not really beholden to a plant list, but I am beholden to First Nation ethic of appreciation, of reciprocation, and dare I say it, even love. Love of land, love of people, love of family. This is really First Nation stuff. So that was my very first book, came out when I was 21. Spent a number of years working on that one. And then the next book was Firescaping. I don't know if you can see this. Actually, the second book was, oh, I don't even have it. It's New Era of Gardening. It was the first book on landscaping for carbon neutrality and oxygen production in the US. It came out in 2001. In 2002, it was the LA Times Best New Gardening Book, one of the four that Robert Smoss had recommended. I never followed up on it because it was a little controversial and I was just a little tired of fighting people. So that came out, and then I was really working on carbon neutrality for all those years in the early aughts. And then, I got overrun in the early 1990s by the Oakland Berkeley Tunnel fire. I was living in the Bay Area, so I started working on fire protection safety. How do we care for these millions of people? Safety. And so finally, eventually, it took like 10 years to get this book out, but I wrote Firescaping, the first edition, and this did really well, the bestseller in the Western United States on creating fire protected properties. This was an incredible project because really you learn more about a topic once the book comes out because you've thrown your neck on the chopping block and everybody's going to run up there to chop it. And that's when the real learning happens. I got to go on the back sides of fires. It was a real big learning curve. So
Hey,
I
Doug,
got
I know this is one of your deep expertises right now, and after the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, you're in high demand as an
Yeah,
expert in fire resilience, firescaping right now.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. When I'm not passing out candy, I'm in the burn scar. Um
Great. Well, Doug, I'm sure we could spend the entire session here just learning from you, but we've got a few other folks that we need to hear
yes, of
from,
course. I
and
apologize.
oh, no, not a problem at all. But thanks so much for popping in, and happy Halloween. And
Okay.
yeah, I certainly hope that many of the folks who are here this evening have a chance, an opportunity to study with you next year.
Okay. And then can I just make one last pitch?
Mhm.
Just one more, if for the prospective students, is the neat thing about my class and some of the other instructors is a really top-down approach. Sustainability isn't a plant list. We just can't pass off a plant list and you're going to be sustainable. It's really relationship oriented. It's your relationship with the land and your cultivation of that relationship and your nurturing of it. And that's what we really do in my classes. We really cultivate that relationship. I give you the tools to create your own relationship with the land. So when you grow up to be like an elder, like that you define what sustainability means to you and your neighbors. And that's what we explore in my class. So I
Thanks so
really
much,
appreciate the
Doug.
opportunity. Thank you, Esther.
Okay. Allison Hirsch, are you going to join us via video or just by phone?
Can you hear me? And
Yeah, we can see you and hear you. Great.
Okay, I'm sorry. My background might be a bit noisy. I'm at swim lessons with my kids. I didn't bring headphones, so I'm hoping the audio is not
All good.
terrible. But hi everyone. Nice to be here and be part of this group. I'm associate professor in landscape architecture and urbanism. I have been in the program 12 years, which is hard to believe. I was director for a while, and now I am just faculty, which is also really fun. I run something called the Landscape Justice Initiative, which is a platform for forms of applied research in sort of justice-based design projects that enable students to work beyond the confines of single semesters on projects that have been sustained over a long period of time. A couple of which are in the Central Valley working with rural communities. I have just started developing relationships in Altadena related to my current studio, which is focused on Altadena's recovery post-Eden conflagration. Actually, Job, who will, if he hasn't introduced himself, he will eventually, and he will hopefully explain his involvement with the studio. But he is our TA, or what we call the class assistant. And a lot of my work has to do with, again, focusing on environmental justice through practices of design and introducing design in communities where it typically does not reach. So I typically work in capacities where I'm either in communities or either in Los Angeles or Central California that are centered around sort of self-initiated projects that are intended to contribute to efforts that are already underway due to longstanding efforts by leaders and community members on the ground. So I have a bunch of students working with me in LJI, Job included. I also teach history and theory courses. I have a PhD in history and theory. I've written a book on Lawrence Halprin, who collaborated with a lifetime collaboration with his wife, who's a dancer and choreographer. So that has really directed my research and teaching on participatory approaches to design, as well as sort of activist approaches to design. And what else do I want to tell you? I'm currently teaching a community design class, which is a requirement. And next term, I'm teaching the first time it's been offered a colloquium in cultural landscapes. So that will actually be offered to dual degrees in heritage conservation and landscape architecture, as well as those that elect to take it. So I'm excited for that. I'm happy to take any questions. I'll put my email in the chat in case I'm not here till the very end.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us, Allison. And as you mentioned, we have Job Message School and Morgan Choi, two of our second year students who are here. And so the purpose of this is, I think our goal here is to provide a good overview of our program, what makes USC unique, how we work around here, what our students are learning. But this is fantastic to have so many of our faculty available, because faculty are the people that you're going to be learning from. This is what really makes the difference. And as you can see, these are friendly, knowledgeable, amazing people to spend time with for either 3 or 2 years, or whatever your time frame is for your degree progress. But the other people you'll spend a lot of time with are your classmates, who are super interesting people. And I want to introduce Job and Morgan and have them tell you a little bit about their backgrounds and their experience in the program.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions later on, but I'll keep my intro brief. My name is Morgan Choi, and I'm a second year in the MLA program. I was born and raised in LA, and so as an LA native, I came into the program thinking I knew everything there was to know about Los Angeles, but I have learned more than I could have ever expected, and it's been such a blessing to have LA as like our playground, our case study, and to study like the ecology. And it has just being in this program and living in this city has made honestly life so much more interesting. You look around and you're like, I know why this is there. I know how this works. So that's been really, really cool. I went to undergrad at NYU and I majored in media, culture, and communications. And from there, I went into the field of e-commerce and retail in fashion and home decor. I've been on both sides of things. So I worked for a really massive retailer, and then I've also worked for a small manufacturer. So that was really interesting. And I've found ways for sure to utilize my experience in those fields and apply them here. And I think that everyone has done that. We have a pretty diverse range in backgrounds, and it's been really interesting to see how all of those are applied and translated as everyone's individual strengths. So I know that it was really intimidating for me. It felt like a huge leap of faith if any of you are doing the same and coming from what you feel like is a very different career path. But I promise you it's worth it. And so if you have any questions about that, I'm more than happy to talk.
Perfect. I'll go. Thanks, Morgan. We're classmates and best friends. My name is Job. I'm an international student, so if there's ever any international students here, I'm from Thailand, and I'm a dual degree in urban planning and landscape architecture. First started off with landscape architecture. Like Morgan said, I think I'm very blessed to be in LA studying the landscape because here every day I think we're embedded in the area where to your right is a desert, to your left is the mountains, and then there's the ocean. And then it's LA, so there's a lot of everything going on all at once. Olympics in the next 2 years. Um, so it is a very fascinating landscape. My background, I went to Middlebury College, a small liberal arts college, and I majored in environmental studies and architectural studies. So I did have some studio design background, but it's not a Bachelor of Architecture. And then I worked for 2 years in startups and nonprofits. And I realized this is a time to pursue something I really like, which is landscape architecture, that have design at its center to be the tool for me to make a change. Um, so that's my background here. And as Morgan has said too, we have a pretty diverse cohort, and it's really cool all the time to hear or see what background that are unique from each individuals that they bring forward into their designs. So we all have very different approach.
And we all learn from each other.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming, both of you, and hanging out after hours to join the group. And yes, Justin, I've got your email at the end of this presentation, and anybody who's here who wants to get in touch, one of the things that we think is really effective and really helps applicants make a decision is to actually get in touch directly with current students or alumni. So please, at the end of this, Justin is a good point of connection. Send us an email. Tell us that you'd like to be connected with a current student or an alum, and we will match you up and Job, I promise this time, we will make sure that that person gets back to you and connects and answers all your questions and helps you to know, how they're experiencing the program. So thanks again for coming. And now I have what I want to do now in this meeting is just run through kind of our program, our curriculum a little bit, download a bunch of information, and then I want to open it up to questions from anybody else who's here. So if it's okay, I'm just going to head into this. But really, the first question I have for all of you, I mean, Job just talked about his kind of career exploration. I think Morgan also, like, these are people who are very talented and came out of undergraduate programs and then reached a point where they were thinking, what am I going to do with my future? But I think the question we ask our students to address in every class, really almost in every studio, is how do you imagine the future? What do you see happening in 20, 30, 50, even 100 years from now? How will we be living? And then the second question is, if those are things you're interested in and want to learn tools, whether it has to do with writing, drawing, digital animation, how do you help communicate the future to people who don't have that expertise and need someone to help them to imagine it? And how do you imagine it ecologically, like Doug was talking about, or socially, like Allison was talking about? So this is the question, is how do you imagine? And then what do you want your impact to be? I mean, we all know that we can't sit around and wait for somebody else to do it. it's really actually up to all of us to make it happen. And so that's what our program is about, I think, is helping people to figure out how can you envision, and I hope, a more positive future, and then how do you personally do that? And we do that through what we call design research is a good heading for that. First, actually, we start by, as Morgan mentioned, getting to know a place. And in this case, it's a place she grew up in and she knew very well for job. No, he didn't really know LA, but now he too knows a lot about Los Angeles. But whatever the topic or the geography, our first responsibility is to know that place, its people, its culture, so that we can think about what are the likely climate changes and impacts coming? How do we achieve more equity and social justice? How do we do important ecological, achieve our agenda items like increasing biodiversity, especially in urban areas? And then we are a professional program leading towards students who go into, many of them into the profession, which I'll talk about later. But what can we do here as part of academic studies to actually advance practice, provide new tools, new ways of thinking about things so that when our students graduate, they're bringing all those tools and knowledge into practices to do the most excellent work that Jessica was talking about. So the kinds of things we look at, and this is really across the board, is we definitely are using data and technology and thinking about how those things are changing now and in the future to, as I said, imagine what will the future look like? And any of you who are from LA or have visited LA or our campus may not recognize this, but this is Exposition Park, imagined by one of our students who graduated last year in 100 years from now. So we're definitely getting around differently. Where the whole life of an urban park is a different experience. Jessica is teaching a studio. She mentioned the Urban Design Studio. Morgan and Job are in the studio right now. And one of the first things that they do whenever we start a project or a studio is, as I said, like do that research, really get to know a place. And they're also taking a geospatial information course, a GIS course right now, where they are honing their skills to take big data and be able to use that to study, to analyze, to represent, to communicate what are the conditions, whether it has to do with mobility and parking or rivers, mountains, natural systems, anything that we have the data for, how to present that, how to communicate it. We think about technology and climate often. This is again back in Expo Park, a project last year, thinking about how as our climate warms, how we experience extreme heat. There will be different ways of integrating technology into our public spaces that will make them more interesting, more usable, more viable, more entertaining, because we may be using them more at night than during the daytime, especially on a day like today when it was over 90 degrees in October here. Doug talked about ecology, which is his topic of teaching and research. We have a full course sequence, starting with kind of basic fundamental ecology for people coming from fields where they have not studied that before, into, at the end of the sequence, an applied urban ecology course, really looking into case studies and understanding how do we do this in practice? How do we integrate urban ecology into our design practices, policies, and other things that will make change? This is a project actually that for Allison Hirsch's third year studio and research seminar. This was she mentioned she works in the Central Valley. This was a student who was very interested in agriculture there and in groundwater quality. Not all of although we're located in LA and we like to use LA as our laboratory frequently, Allison is one of our faculty who work outside of the city of Los Angeles in the Central Valley to take on these big rural and agricultural issues. And this was a student who really wanted to focus on what are sustainable, healthy practices for agriculture in the Central Valley that won't lead to groundwater pollution or depletion, that will keep farmers in business, but can be more sustainable in practice. And health and well-being is always a critical element, not just physical well-being, because we know public open space, parks and open space are great resources for recreation, for exercise, for people improving their physical health, but also for mental well-being. And as we address issues like social isolation, or other mental health issues, we explore what is the potential of practice as a landscape architect, design as a landscape architect to really improve, to maintain well-being and health, to improve mental health and social well-being. And Doug also mentioned that first book about indigenous horticulture and ethnobotany. This is something that we are very interested in here. And LA is also a very interesting place because it has one of the highest populations of indigenous people. Some of those are Chumash and Tongva, local native people, and some are native people coming from South or Central America or other places. We want to know, research, and then implement that indigenous knowledge in all of our projects where we can. So we're thinking globally. Urbanism Gabrielian, who I'll say a few words about in a couple minutes here, teaches a global scale studio. And in this case, students were looking at how waste moves around globally and what are some of the possible approaches to mining sites and other waste sites, to really using our local resources. I mean, not just, well, I should say, working locally means working with communities, caring about communities, and then being able to utilize the resources of our R1 University here at USC this is our special collections librarian, to make sure that within our school, we use all the resources that are available. Our students are super talented and successful. We've been, in 2024, we had a national research winner, Anya Abdalian, and we also had the 2024 National Olmsted Scholar, Nina Whitehorn, who was working with Allison Hirsch as a student researcher and then formulated a project to work in Allensworth up in the Central Valley that came along with a $25,000 research grant from the LAF, which is an amazing opportunity. And then we've been very fortunate for the last, 5, 7, 9 years that I've been here. Our local chapter recognizes the excellence of our student work. Our students, they don't have to give awards, but our students have always won the eligible awards of honor and merit awards for the chapter because their work is fantastic. Here's Job before his first famous interview. Applicants often ask, so what are the internship opportunities? And I will say we don't have a mandatory internship program, but your faculty, Jessica, me, others, we're connected to local offices. Our students find internship opportunities, especially between the second and third year, sometimes between first and second year in the summer, and sometimes part-time employment while they're actually students. But these are some of the best firms in the city and the region, and often those internships lead to full-time employment. So you met Allison, you met Doug, you met Jessica. We have other full-time faculty, Alex Robinson and Urbanism Gabrielian, who couldn't be here tonight. And then we always have very interesting part-time faculty, some from small practice, some from large practice, but in general, they are working landscape architects or experts in their field. Peter Ekman is a historian and geographer. He's a little bit of a different kind of person, more of an academic, but these are the folks who would be teaching you in the program. Alex Robinson is teaching, he teaches first year studio. He also teaches a course an elective called Test Plot, which is a community learning about landscapes, learning about ecology, actually hands in the dirt, planting in here locally at Rainbow Canyon, also Catalina. Test Plot is a very interesting community-based education program that is functioning across North and South California. And we are the one university where we have students working in this format as a course every year or every other year. So it's a great opportunity to get out into a natural area and really learn about ecology and restoration. Alex also runs the Integrated River Lab. Jessica mentioned how interesting the LA River is. It is a completely man-made river, or most of its 51 miles. Alex is working with the city of Los Angeles and others to study the hydrodynamics. There's lots of people who have imagined a different future for the Los Angeles River, one that has more vegetation, one that has steelhead trout. Alex is working with this 60-foot long model in his lab to figure out how does water actually behave with changes in the river geomorphology or other things that could happen in the river. And this is super helpful for the city to actually be able to model this. And this is real-time research happening with community members, with students. Very interesting. Arusha Gabrielian teaches our media sequence starting from first year, and she teaches a biodesign elective every other year. Her lab is called the Landscape Futures Lab. She is working with biomaterials, sometimes at the nanoscale, sometimes it's mycelium, sometimes it's SCOBY, all kinds of really interesting things that may not be the things that we think about in the landscape all the time, but will lead to more sustainable practice, more of a healthy balance between nature and the things that we create. A few, I'm not going to go through every course in the curriculum and explain it, but I want to just kind of show you how we approach curriculum here. First, I do want to mention the degree tracks that we have, or the degree options. The first is the traditional Master of Landscape Architecture, a sole degree. We call that degree, or we call our program, the Master of Landscape Architecture and Urbanism program, because we work in research and design from very small sites and landscapes to very large regional or territorial scales to understand what the global possibilities are and impacts. That's a 3-year program if you don't have a studio background. It's a 2-year advanced placement program if you do have a studio, BArch, BSLA, or equivalent. We offer 2 dual degrees. One is the Master of Landscape Architecture and Master of Urban Planning with the Price School. The second dual degree is the Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Heritage Conservation. The Heritage Conservation program is the only master's degree, I believe, on the West Coast now. Excellent faculty, amazing narratives and storytelling. This is not a study of history. This is a study of telling that story of history across landscapes, across buildings, across cultures. So we're really lucky to be housed with them and share in that work. And then our graduate programs all offer a series of certificates. This is 12 or 14 units, which means generally 3 or 4 classes that you take to get to know more about a field: architecture, building science, heritage conservation, sustainable design. Most of our students actually don't do facade art, science, and technology, but you could if you have an architecture background. And then a certificate in real estate planning, again, through the Price School of Policy and Planning. So these are not like a full minor undergrad, but they're ways to gain expertise that come along with the program. In the center of these 2 diagrams, this is comparing the 3-year and the 2-year programs. And this is the core, whether you're doing a single degree or a dual degree. We balance, we have a strong commitment to design. We think most of our research is happening while we're designing. So there is every semester a design studio. We have a sequence of ecology courses, which also include our plant ecology and identification, planting design. That's part of that sequence. We have technology, which is really learning how to use the tools to create media and representation, how to measure it, how to monitor it, how to use tools like geospatial analysis. Our media courses taught by Arusiak start with analog drawing and modeling and end up in digital software. And then we do have the history theory sequence, which Allison mentioned, starting from an introduction to global landscapes through contemporary landscape history and theory, and then finally with Peter Ekman, urbanism as a history. And then we often offer electives in the 3-year program. There are 10 units of electives. Those can be taken as graduate level courses in architecture and building science in the school, anywhere in the School of Architecture or across USC. And I know Morgan's looking at a course in the cinema school this spring. I love when students go far afield and find things that are related to the profession or the field, but are not in the typical sequence. So I can always talk more about the curriculum in depth and detail with you when you have specific questions, but this is the core of it presently. What's it like to be a student here? I think this is also something that's like really hard for you to find out about on the website or by reading some kind of, material. Definitely tune into our Instagram account, our Insta, if you want to see what life is like. But our program starts with bringing together a new cohort, traveling around a little bit around the region to get to know LA. I'm sure that, Morgan, this was probably your first time kayaking on the LA River. We like to visit some of the lesser known places and provide experiences that people, whether they were born here or not, might never experience. And there's nothing like learning about the ecology of the LA River, like kayaking down a mile of it or so. In the first studio with Alex Robinson, this is again one of the things that we have access to at USC is we have the Wrigley Institute, which is on Catalina Island, visible sometimes from Santa Monica on the shore here. But we go out, I think this year it was a 3-night trip, experiencing this very unique coastal landscape, learning about indigenous culture and people there, visiting the Conservancy nursery to learn about restoration efforts there, seeing the Marine Lab. It's a great way to get to know your fellow students in your cohort, how to make your next best friend, and also learn about all the things that landscape architecture can be. Then we do work, I have to say, we do study in the building. This is Watt Hall, one of the many kind of flexible spaces. And in that first year, one of the things that we really need to focus on and develop is three-dimensional thinking. We do it analog first, spend a lot of time making these kinds of, we're actually don't do the large scale models anymore, but more small scale models, but using laser cutting, 3D printing, and other fabrication, but really not just looking at things on screens, really looking and studying things that you can see and feel and touch and understand as a landform. We've talked a lot about ecology already. So we do that through our ecology courses and faculty and using the tools of GIS and other big data to really understand what our ecology is now and thinking about how it will change in the future. And we build that into studios that study climate impacts, whether it's coastal sea level rise. On the left side, this was a studio I did back in 2017 looking at coastal sea level rise impacts from Malibu to Newport, which are very varied, but the thing that it has in common is the sea is rising. To last year, Alex Robinson's studio in Point Mugu at the Naval Base to try to explain to the Navy that they have some major flooding and sea level rise issues that they need to address. And at the same time, while they're addressing those infrastructure things, there is opportunity to think about wetland restoration, more nature-based solutions, not only building our way out of it. So I hope that gives you a little sense of the curriculum and kind of the kinds of things that students are involved in and studying. I do want to stress that our faculty are leaders in practice, and we have great relationships with practices all over the region, which is super important in our professional practice courses and in our career advising. Another major event that happens here is we have an annual career fair where we have firms, multidisciplinary firms, small firms, nonprofits, all kinds of folks come. And I remember Lara, she was here at the career fair this year. She ended up working with a firm called Mithun in Seattle. They have a local office here. They're a multidisciplinary firm, architecture, landscape, and planning. So often our career fair is a successful event for our students in finding their first job when they leave here. And then as Job said, LA is a super interesting place to be for many reasons. But the things that are super exciting are they're here now and they're coming like any day now. Like FIFA's coming in 2026 World Cup games. K-pop and amazing culture is here all the time. That's not something that we're looking forward to, that we have to wait for. But LA 28, and then in the upper left, this is the site of the La Brea Tar Pits in LACMA, which is in the process of a major overhaul by Weissman Freddie. I mean, we've got some of the most amazing designers working in LA all the time, and we are here to learn from them. They're teaching here, and we're out in the field learning about them. And my last slide. Please be in touch with us. Email us. Justin would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, feel free. And now I'm going to figure out how to stop sharing, and we'd like to hear from any questions that you have.
Before we get to questions, actually, I would like to kind of go over some of the technical issues with just the
yeah.
application process, just because some of you may have some questions about that. So let me share my screen real quick. All right, can you see this?
Yeah.
All right, great. So, as Esther was saying, here's some of our degree programs and dual degrees. So for your application, you will be submitting a USC CAS application. That's the portal or platform. Within the CAS application is a link to do a slide room portion of it. So that's where you submit your portfolio and your letters of recommendation. That's all handled through the slide room. So when you do your letters of rec, you put in their names, their emails, and then essentially we reach out to them. Our slide room reaches out to request the letter of rec, and then it's submitted through slide room on your behalf. In the CAS application is, your CV, resume, your statement of intent, your transcripts. For your transcripts, we require, I call them semi-official. They're official in the sense that you may have transcripts that your registrar sent to you, and those are considered valid as long as they have the college seal and the registrar's signature. They're not valid. They're not considered official if they're just like a student portal screenshot or something. So these transcripts, when you upload them, load them onto your CAS application. It's only after you decide to enroll that we need official transcripts, and those are transcripts that are sent directly from your university directly to us. So it's a little confusing, but if you have your kind of official, either a paper or a digital copy of your transcripts, then you can upload them onto the CAS app. If you're an international student, it's a little bit more involved. They do need English language translations if they're in another language. Again, once you get into like enrolling, then they ask for more involved transcripts. And our central university, our central admissions office will handle any little discrepancies. They may ask you for any updates or little things that they may have an issue with, and they reach out to you directly about that. International students, if you're went to school in a country that English is not your first language, let's say India is a great example. India has universities that are taught completely in English, but English is not the first language of the country. Then you still are required to submit TOEFL or IELTS scores. And yeah, that's about it. Deadlines are, the priority application deadline is January 5th. That's for your application submission, and then also for merit scholarship. So if you are admitted into the program, you are automatically considered for merit scholarship. And that priority is given to those students who submit by the January 5th deadline. We continue to review applications beyond that time with a final deadline of May 1st for international applicants and July 1st for domestic applicants. you are international, I highly recommend you submit by the priority deadline, just because there's a number of different technical bureaucratic issues with kind of getting your visa, getting your I-20 and all this stuff. It just takes time. So the more on top of it you are, the better it is for you. I think that's about it. Esther, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, let's unshare the screen. And so anybody who, if you want to turn your camera, fine. Feel free to use the chat also if you have a question. But any questions so far? Hey, hi.
Hi, my name's Ahmad. I had a question about mentorship or networking
Mhm.
programs, and if there are any available that pair students with alumni or professionals in the private sector.
Absolutely, Ahmad. We have an organization at the school, USC School of Architecture, which is unique across many schools, called the USC Architectural Guild. And they put together a mentorship program every year where they pair students with professionals. And you can do, actually, if you come into the 3-year program, you can have continuous 3 years of mentoring. You can change up your mentor, like you can learn from one person at one firm and then decide, I think I'd like to experience something different and ask for a different mentor. So absolutely. And I think the other thing you find is um, your faculty are also amazing mentors because they are here and they want you to succeed and are generally generous with their time and you're always like welcome. Like I don't know, I have an open door policy. Job and Morgan are in my office all the time along with other students, and I invite you to come in, just talk about whatever's on your mind. Always happy to help out. It's not, I think, sometimes I think like, it would be nice to have USC has an amazing career office, okay? And you're in that network and using all of their tools and everything. But we find for landscape and architecture students, um, there is a strong network. It's a small world and we know most of the people in it, and this is your best connection is really through your faculty rather than through the university-wide system. Now if you decide you want to do something different than a traditional practice, then maybe like we'll tell you spend more time over at the big university office. But we will set you up with a mentor, and you absolutely should consider your faculty your mentors too. Job, I saw you had a raise.
Yes. I could talk about it in from a student perspective. So me and Morgan both did the architectural guild. We were paired. I was paired with an architect because there's a request like you can pick if you wanted to be paired with landscape architects, or if you have a preference. And it was really nice. Like I was able to visit the firm. Also, like want to reiterate on what you said about like all the professors here are like your mentor and like a really close one. And they're all practicing, like most of them are practicing. And it's really cool to learn from practice. So I would even say that we're friends with a respectable boundaries. And like with Jessica, with Esther, like with everyone, with Allison, I'm able to ask them anything, anytime. And if I need advice on something, I would ask them whether it's school related or just career related or,
Yeah.
any other things.
And then, yeah, to add on, she became my mentor unofficially. She actually started off as one of our jurors. Like she came constantly for our reviews, and I just wanted to pick her brain one day afterwards. And it just developed over it since that. And then also we coincidentally got paired through the Architectural Guild. So it really is like Esther was saying, just like finding these moments of connection, and people are so willing to help. And then also it's we have a student ASLA organization, which is the American Society of Landscape Architects. And so that's how we as a program really bond. And we also not just connect you with professionals, but also people who have been in the program longer just to help guide you on the day-to-day as well.
Yeah, so like past experience, past students or like even third years and first year and second year students are also mentor and
Yeah.
mentees to each other. So that's a really good thing.
Thanks. I see there's a question here from Joseph about the portfolio, which there's always questions about the portfolio. And so that is why, Justin, what's the date of our portfolio workshop?
Yes, so that is November 13th.
Okay.
And it will be on our website shortly, but in the meantime, I just put in the registration for link for it. So if you want to click on that link and register for it now, that's a good thing to do. You know, typically in the portfolio workshops, you know, you have students who share their portfolios that they use to kind of get in the program. And so I think that's a great resource. There's also on the website previous portfolio and information sessions that are available. They'll be replaced, obviously, once this is up for the info session and once the new portfolio workshop is up. But I encourage you to kind of look through that as well, and then bring your questions when you come to the portfolio workshop.
I'm curious, does anybody who's here this evening, anybody coming from a design background, architecture or interior? No, not unusual. Oh, hey Ahmad, what's your undergraduate degree in?
Studies.
Pardon?
Architectural studies.
Oh, okay. Oh, that was jobs. Excellent jobs major. Okay.
Went to
Um,
a small liberal arts school as well. So
oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So we often, I'm for people who know, who are familiar with and have work that they've already produced, it's no less of a challenge, I have to say, like, because then you worry about, formatting it and how does it look and am I putting the right stuff in the portfolio? For the other people who have never put together a portfolio before or who are wondering, um, very interesting, Tara, who are wondering what is this portfolio? How do I even start going about making one? I like to I always you'll hear it again if you come to the workshop, but I say, we want to see your how you think visually. It can be very wide ranging. We can see graphic design, we can see if you've done any work in drawing, painting, sculpture, furniture making, making anything that kind of helps us to see like, yes, I have ideas about composition, about color, about space. If you've I have had people have applied, and actually this year we had somebody in who a lot of her work was in making gardens. So that was, just there's Morgan, I'll embarrass you. Okay, Morgan had pictures of food. Okay, which I think is fantastic because it shows in photographing that food. Well, first of all, it tells me that we have something in common because I like food. But also like just the image, like I can see the work that you've done in terms of the visual composition, in thinking about the ingredients, in understanding the cultural history, maybe like that speaks volumes. Actually, in some ways more than landscape photography. That's the one general thing I would say is it's a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 25 images. Make them big. Like, don't give us a whole bunch of little images. Grace, I see your bachelor's in landscape architecture. Please have mercy on me. I look at it on my smaller screen and I can't see the little things in there. So show me bigger images rather than a whole bunch of small images on a page. And if you really have not, um, I had a student, I had an applicant once who was very worried about this, who was working at a botanical garden, who said, I'm a history major. I don't do this stuff. What do I do? And I said, here's what I would do if I were you. I want you to go out and sit right here every day for 2 weeks and draw that tree right there. Just make 14 drawings of that tree and put them together and submit them. And I actually, to be honest, I don't remember what her portfolio looks like now, but she continued working at this at a different botanical garden while she was a student. And now she works for a nationally known firm here in LA called Studio MLA. So do not despair. There is hope.
Mhm.
And
We
if
have,
the other thing I would say, Justin, before you pipe in here is often we have applicants who are coming out of environmental sciences or other kind of more hard science stuff. Yeah, show if you've done previous GIS work, like show us those things. Think about what their visual quality before you put them in. And then I would say, do not like tips for what not to do. Don't try to show us that you can do professional work, like something that looks like although I tell Job and Morgan they need to have construction documents in their portfolio when they're looking for a job. We wanna we want to know more about how you think creatively, not that you can do something that looks like a professional did it in terms of construction documents.
So we have a few questions. I'm going back up the feed. How many from Olivia? Hi, how many students are in each cohort?
Well, our program is generally a little smaller than some other nationally known programs, and like Job and Morgan are in a cohort. You have
8.
eight in your, yeah, eight is, I would say, a good average number. So in your studio, in some of your core courses, I mean, this is how we, Ahmad, find the time to really get to know our students and help them, is
Mhm.
because you're not sitting in a class of 300 people.
We love it. It's more one-on-one time with our amazing faculty, and like you feel you get the time you need for desk crits instead of like, okay, next.
Catherine, where did you study city and regional planning? You can put it in the chat or you can pipe up.
Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Oh, well, welcome to the big city.
Thank you.
We've got a first year student who studied city and regional planning elsewhere. And I think she's really flourishing. I mean, because this is now like really tapping into her creative spirit, and it's different than city and regional planning. And I see Grace has this question about research and visual renderings. And I guess, Grace, what I would say is our students, we are teaching our students to be global thinkers. The goal of getting a master's degree is because you want to lead in the field. You want to be knowledgeable. You want that expertise. You want to be thinking not just practically about how to do projects, but you want to be thinking about what's the right project to be doing. How does this project really have environmental or social benefits for society? I mean, that's the kind of level of thinking you want to get out of this program or any other master's program. So this question about how much is research, how much is sort of the software, you would definitely I should say that on the advanced placement, that is a discretionary admission based on your portfolio. If we can see that you have mastered the things that our first year students have mastered, then we okay you to go jump right into that second year. But it's not like there's always research, because we always start by learning about place, culture, history, how it works, what's going on, and then push into design to solve problems, to surface opportunities, to define and describe what that future is going to look like. And yeah, we use tools of Grasshopper, GIS. Like, we definitely are using those. It's very sustainable here. The lights go out if I don't move around. But if, that's where the software comes in, is it's not learning software for the sake of learning the software or just to be able to make a nice rendering. What we're focused on is, what are you communicating? What's the value of that design work that you're doing? So I hope that answers your question. Austin, you must have a question. You've been very patient and listening. Like, what can I tell you that I haven't told you already?
Was that directed at me? I wasn't sure if it was Austin or Justin. I wasn't sure if there was a Justin in here.
Oh, no, I know what Justin's thinking. This is about Austin.
Well, I don't have a ton of questions at the moment. I do have to say thank you for taking the time to be here. This was a really impressive kind of workshop, and it makes me really excited to at least apply to the program, see if I can get in. My background is in urban planning and sustainable development. So I went to Western Washington University. I do a lot of permitting right now, and I found that permitting is very bureaucratic, very contentious, and I'd like to be in a more creative field. Um, so I'm just very excited. I think that the presentation really gave a good breadth of scope as to what you guys do in your program. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Anybody, I won't, I would, if this was class, I would call on all of you individually, but since it's not, um, the floor is open, no question, too big, too small, or otherwise, anything you want to know. All right, well, if there are no other questions, then I really do thank you for coming. Thank you for hanging out with us. And really do send any questions as they come up. Please come to that portfolio workshop if, I think it will help you just to see what other people submit. I'll make sure that we have folks who come from varied backgrounds to show you what kinds of things come from, whatever they've been doing. And if you're local and you're in town, like that's the other thing, feel free to drop in and come see us here at the school where I try to be here every day. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays are generally busier days. That's when we have studio scheduled and we have more students in the building at the same time. Tuesdays and Thursdays are a little bit lighter sometimes because students are at different classes in different places or they have different schedules. But please, yeah, come visit us if you're around.
Also, I wanted to talk about or mention the Soak It Up conference that's happening December 5th. And maybe Esther, you can talk a little bit about that. I'll put the website in the email
Super. Yeah,
or in the chat.
we're super fortunate to be hosting this national event on the USC campus. There's a one-day symposium. If you happen to currently be a student, it is free for students in California. Otherwise, we're going to have some people really literally from all over the globe talking about I suspect they'll talk about more than just stormwater. But this is the Oberlander Prize and Program from the Cultural Landscape Foundation. The speakers who are coming, some are from Los Angeles, from Studio MLA. I know they have a couple people. Our faculty, Allison and Alex, and others, and Jessica will all be speaking at this. And then we'll have Adrian Hus from the Netherlands and Mario Schnettman from Mexico. I mean, this is a kind of global scale thinking, and it's a great, actually, if you're still like sort of trying to figure out, some of you know, but if you're still trying to figure out like what is all that landscape architecture can be, I highly recommend coming to this one-day symposium. Sit and listen to 20 people talk about their practices and the future. It should be great. And there are also going to be some site tours, I believe, on the 6th, some field visits, but I don't know that they've published those opportunities yet. But yeah, come. And if you do come to that conference, I will be doing just a very brief welcome because other people have more interesting things to say. But please do come and introduce yourself. Let me know that you're there. I always love to connect an actual person with an application. Oh, I'm going to say one other thing about the scholarships.
Mhm.
Because this is always a frequent question about what are the scholarships? Am I eligible? As Justin said, everyone who applies is eligible. These are, and the name of it is a merit scholarship. This is not, we can't look at need-based scholarships. This is only about merit, and the way we define merit is based on your previous academic record, but also what have you been doing as a human? Have you been in leadership positions? Are you involved in your community? Have you gone above and beyond to demonstrate that you are someone who is likely to and has great prospects to succeed not just in our program but as a professional. So I want to make that distinction about how we evaluate everyone as a candidate for the scholarships.
And if you're looking for further scholarships as a graduate applicant, you can hop on our portal for Scholarship Universe and see like a lot more scholarships available through the university and a little bit outside. That kind of matches, you put in your personal information and it matches you with potential scholarships that you might be eligible for as well.
All right, everybody. I know we said this might last till 7. It's okay. I'm going to excuse class early this evening. And
All right.
thanks for coming, and look forward hopefully to meeting you in person in the future. And really, mostly hope to see you here in August as a new student in our program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Take care.